That's going to be a little weird. I can't have this. Hello, as you can tell, we are not actually quite starting the show here. We're finishing setup. So sit tight, you three guests that I see.
They're probably not even listening.
Probably not. Like, oh, how did I open this? This is dumb. I don't want to listen.
It's something that Ustream does to make people feel like they're special.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Oh. Hello, and welcome to the Stone Monkey Studios podcast for, May 18th? Yes, May 18th, 2013. I'm Ryan.
And I'm John.
Yeah. So, it's been a while since we've done this. We've never done it live before, so you're going to have to bear with us. We'll see how this goes. Normally there's a little bit of back-end editing, at least a tiny little bit, cut out dead air and stuff like that. There's likely going to be plenty of dead air.
Yeah, probably.
So,
especially since Ryan is the only one that talks, really. Kind of just very quiet. So,
I'm also I'm going to try and figure this out here. We have the chat room open, so feel free to chat. But it's very weird because we're watching the video of us time delayed by like 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try and keep up with it. We'll try and jump into the chat once in a while when we can, or address any comments you have. But it is really distracting. So yeah, be prepared for that. Anyway, if you have not listened to the Stone Monkey Studios podcast in the past, which I mean, why would you have? It's awful.
If you're one of the 7 people, though.
Yeah, I think one of the 7 people that have subscribed at some point in the past. I think our subscriber point is probably,
I wasn't even talking about subscribers.
Oh,
I mean, just like people that
just
have listened
listeners.
To it. Yeah.
Yes, welcome to the new crew. You have increased it by approximately 150% now. Yeah, so it's been about a year since we podcast last time. Where were we last time we podcast?
We were in the middle of working on Dungeon Crawler, I believe.
Yeah.
We're starting work on it, I think.
No, not even starting, because we were trying to get Dungeon Crawler in a demo state before PAX, which was in August.
That's right. Okay.
And our last broadcast was, I think, in June. So, oh, yes, if you haven't noticed, by the way, we shift and twitch a lot. So that's why the City Quest video took, like, forever to record. We are going to talk about the Kickstarter process a little later as well, though. So we'll touch on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been an interesting ride since the last time we recorded. We were in the middle of Dungeon Crawler. And Dungeon Crawler, for those of you who don't know, was a procedurally generated Dungeon Crawler genre.
It's a roguelike.
That's it. Yes, roguelike. That's the word I was looking for. Action RTS sort of thing. Diablo-esque in a couple of ways. Well, we worked on that for a while. We worked on that off and on for, I don't know, I think it started probably maybe Christmas of 2010, I want to say.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
And then, because beginning of 2011, we did a lot of like the groundwork for it. You did a lot of the UI stuff.
Yeah. Well, no, we started
after that.
Yeah, there was when it started. It was we started out in 2010, and we basically worked on the procedural generation for a month or two, and then set that aside, and picked it up.
Yeah. Because all we had done was like it built a really simple level, and we had it running on the iPhone, and that's about it.
Yeah, there was maybe like a handful of actual mechanics in it, but yeah, we set that aside in favor of a couple of other projects. I think that's when we started Freefall in like early 2011.
I don't remember. I have no idea. Well, free fall only took a little bit. It only took a couple months.
Yeah, a couple months. And I think that was early 2011.
Okay, that sounds rightish.
So anyway, we picked up Dungeon Crawler again and worked on it for a little while, but the scope, I think there was a big thing with the scope, is it was just very, very big. So
Especially on art, which is why part of the reason why we chose the lo-fi art for City Quest.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's a lot less overhead. I mean, it's not that we can't make higher res art. It just takes a lot longer for a small team.
Yeah.
And with City Quest, it really, really fit the style of the game we were going for. So it seemed to work out pretty well.
And one day we probably will go back to Dungeon Crawler. One day.
Yeah,
I'd like
it's kind
to
of curious
go
because
with
we've got a couple of perpetual games that we always kind of come back to. Eventually, we'll start kind of pursuing, like, I think in between those big perpetual games is when we do little prototypes and work on some of those in the meantime.
Yeah.
Because Freefall was, I think it was something you kind of had in mind for a little while, but just
mainly because
prototyped.
it was easy.
Yeah.
Just like something that could be done really quickly, and yeah, it wasn't very good, but
Yeah.
it was something completed.
For anyone that doesn't know, Freefall was basically a game in which stuff falls from the air. You have a little character running across the bottom of the screen, and stuff falls from the sky. You tap to juggle those things to keep them from hitting the little guy running across the bottom of the screen.
It really sucked.
It wasn't terrible. I go back and I play it, and it's kind of fun to play, but there's a lot of stuff that, if I knew everything then that I knew now, that I would do differently about it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad for a first effort, for a first big push. Yeah. And then we've got a couple of other perpetuals like Pyro, which is a Katamari-esque sort of thing where
it's kind of like a combination of Katamari and a shoot 'em up. Like
yeah. Yeah, basically you run around the world. You're a little demon and you run around the world. We have kind of a vague backstory for it. It's the end of the world. Satan sends you to destroy the world, so on and so forth, and you run around with your little flamethrower and just burn and destroy everything you can.
Yeah.
So,
if you want to, actually, we do have videos of that on the website too, if you want to see it.
Yeah, one very deep on the website. Otherwise, there should be one posted somewhere on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know where that is, I'm sorry. It's somewhere. You can probably find it. Just search around. You're tech savvy. You can find it. Because I don't have a link off the top of my head. Let's check the chat. Okay, no more chat. Yeah. So anyway, we do have the phone line and Skype line open. So if there is anyone that wants to call, we will do our darndest to pay attention. We set this up a couple of days ago, and it should work. Right now, we're doing kind of backers only. If there's no backers that call up, maybe we'll open it up at some point here to everyone. But we want to give kind of backers first shot. We sent out a backer only email. Or if you're not a backer and you really, really just want to talk at us or talk to us or yell at us, then just go back it and view the backer update. We'll wait.
I'm not gonna wait.
Oh, okay.
I'm bored, Ryan.
You're bored.
Entertain me.
No.
Okay.
I'm too busy entertaining no one.
All right. Well,
Okay. So yeah. Oh no.
I don't
edit.
think we did discuss Mr. Wiley at all.
No. That was because Mr. Wiley was this past December. So since our last recording, I think even since our last recording, we might have done the Redbeard even.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so since our last podcast, we've also done a handful of game jams. Most of the stuff is available to play on our website. The first one we did was called Redbeard the Borrower. It was for the Ludum Dare 24, I think.
No, it was for
23.
Oh yeah, 24.
Yeah, it was 23 or 24.
Yeah. One of the two.
Actually, yeah, I think it was 23 actually, because it was 23, and then there was Evolution was 24, and then You're the Villain was 25.
Yeah, that sounds
So Ludum Dare 23, it was Tiny World. It was our first effort, and we came out and we made this Borrowers type game. If you don't know, the Borrowers are basically little people that live amongst big people, you know.
That was kind of like a 3D adventure game.
Yeah, a little bit. It was a similar sort of kind of. I guess it was a lot more distilled down.
Yeah.
And that basically the idea was you run around the world trying to annoy the human until they leave. And the gameplay for that was basically you would walk around, there would be objects that have little sparklies. So we had a lot of different interactions on these objects.
And you did have an inventory that you could like gather things too.
Yeah, yep. There was an inventory. It was nothing visual. Basically, the interface was very, very minimal. You would click on something, and then it gave you all the options you could do with that particular item. So you click on a soda can, you could knock it over, you could drink it, you could gather a little bit in a thimble, and then once you have the thimble full of liquid, you could go and pour it on an electrical socket, and just all these little fun things to annoy people, and a couple of just terribly immature jokes.
I just want to tell you that all the poop jokes, I'm responsible for that.
Yes,
I'm
any
sorry.
Any poop jokes you encounter in our game are John. Don't get me wrong. I laugh a lot.
You can put poop in the food. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. There's a skillet grilling on the stove that you can put poop in. Thank you.
Yes. I just thought that's important to let
So
you know.
anyway, the scat fetish comes from him.
It's not a
me.
fetish. I have nothing. No, it's not a fetish.
Okay.
No. I just have lowbrow humor. Toilet humor. It's all I can do.
Fair enough.
It's all I know, Ryan.
It's all I know.
Eating infants.
Yes, there's a lot of baby infanticide.
Yeah.
I know at one point for Pyro there was talk of a pile of babies.
Oh no, that was already made.
Oh, okay. So there's a pile of babies.
It sets on fire and then it blows up and they all giggle.
We're losing so many fans right now. Wait, let's see. Are there still? Oh man, we have like one extra person. Oh hey, look.
Oh okay.
Oh okay. Okay, Exoidster. Well, thank you for backing. If you have any questions,
hopefully we don't drive you away.
Yeah. I hope you're okay with talk of infanticide. I would guess if you have experienced the website and you are experienced the Kickstarter and watched our videos and actually backed us, then I'm guessing you're okay with this type of humor. So hopefully we don't scare you off. Yeah. So what else we got on the list here?
Kickstarter?
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about Mr. Wily.
Oh, no, we didn't.
So if you haven't played Mr. Wily, it's on our website. It's on Congregate, or you can just Google The Fall of Mr. Wily. This was a game we did for the Ludum Dare in December, this past December, and the theme was "You Are the Villain." We worked with Akash the Car, who is going to do the music for the Kickstarter if we manage to, for City Quest if we manage to succeed with the Kickstarter. Even if we don't succeed with the Kickstarter, if somehow we happen upon a bunch of money, then we'll still hire him. But anyway, we worked with him and we worked with our friend Nick. And yeah.
It was kind of like a series of mini games where you gradually became evil. Like you start out as a good guy and like keeps on shitting on you, so you end up doing terrible things.
Yeah.
But not that terrible. It's all pretty cartoony. So.
Yeah, it's all cartoony and it's pretty fun, and there's a little bit of a non sequitur sort of thing in there. It's not quite as absurd as some of our other games, but I think it does carry over a little bit of the humor. So if you want to go play that, it's only like 5 minutes. It's free, so go check it out. We did pretty well with that in the Ludum Dare.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah, and then since then we've been we stopped working on Dungeon Crawler around August, September.
Yeah.
And started working on City Quest. Pretty much as our main project. We've got a couple of other side projects each, but this is our main project now. Um, yeah, I guess it's kind of interesting that we kind of go through cycles with some of these big projects. We haven't really gotten as far as we've gotten with CityQuest. Like CityQuest, we've gotten pretty far. So at this point, it's going to kind of be one of the work on it until it's done.
Yeah.
But some of the past ones, it's really a lot of them were bigger and took more time. So we would put a couple of months in and have some progress, but still kind of get the little bit of a drag from part-time work, since most of it is just in our spare time. So that's why some of these have kind of fallen by the sides. It's I don't know, mostly you just kind of get burned out after a little while, and if you haven't made enough progress to like see the end, it can definitely be tough.
Yeah.
I know some people are a lot better at sticking it out, sitting down and spending 3 years working on their dream project. But we're I don't know, a lot more ADD, I suppose. It's a lot harder to just sit down and stick with one project that is going to be 2-3 years long. So we're trying to keep them a little bit smaller. CityQuest is all told probably going to be around a year development time, which is not too bad, but
Yeah. Well, at least compared to some of the other ones, like
Yeah.
Dungeon Crawler would take a lot longer.
Yeah, Dungeon Crawler, we never even we went through 2 or 3 different dungeon generation algorithms, and I think we we weren't even at a point where we had something we liked.
No.
At the end, I think we were going to scrap it and do something completely different anyway. So that was definitely a lot longer. But CityQuest, it was pretty quick. After about I want to say 2 or 3 months, most of the adventure engine was done, and it came down to just content now.
Yeah, and even at that point, I think the airport was mostly done, and then that's when we started working on the slums pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So yeah, it shouldn't take that much longer.
Yeah. So we've got there's a handful of other smaller areas. So right now there's the airport, there's the slums, and then we've got planned a couple of smaller areas for each of the individual storylines. And then the big kind of centerpiece is going to be the city, I think, which is going to be, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot bigger than the slums or the airport.
Definitely.
So most of the
it'll have
time,
more interesting layout too.
Yeah.
Like the slums is pretty simplistic in the way it's laid out. It's pretty much just like a line with a bunch of branches off of it. Whereas the downtown, well, we haven't actually designed it yet, but I'd like to be a lot more intricate and interesting to navigate.
Yeah, especially since we started the level design for the slums, we've also introduced some functionality to make little islands, so you can go inside buildings and have bigger buildings. So
yeah, basically something that wouldn't work out in like actual space.
Yeah. Yeah, and since when we designed the slums, it was designed not with that in mind. We can definitely get a little more expansive with the city. So you'll spend most of your time there. You'll be able to bounce back and forth between some of the different areas. More than likely, you won't be able to revisit the slums. So basically, the plan is to kind of lock you into one storyline after you leave the slums. Make it very obvious, like in the slums, you can explore the different storylines, but after the slums, you get locked into one storyline that you finish. It's just too complex. Like, even the slums is very, very difficult to make all the different quest lines interact with each other. If you have dialogue for one character, we have a little bit of dialogue adding and sort of conditional dialogue, but it's not powerful enough to really have the entire game be able to interact. What happens if you're 20 quests down the Mafia storyline and you decide to go back and do the politician storyline?
Yeah.
It would be very, very difficult to have intelligent interaction at that point, and even beyond that, like if we wanted custom interactions, it just gets tenfold more complicated, because then you have to make dialogue for every step of the way. What happens if you're on Mafia step 19 and go on talk to the politician step 2 or politician step 3. So we made that decision to lock out of the storylines, basically due to that complexity. And hey, it provides replayability, right?
Forces replayability.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I mean, like I think it'd be different enough that'd be fun, especially since once you get out of the slums, it's almost completely different. Oh, God.
My sister has joined the room. Hello,
Oh,
Kylie.
no. Well, it's a good thing she wasn't here for the infanticide.
She might have been. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Actually, did she already leave?
No, I don't know. Let's wait and see. I'm just gonna stop and stare.
No, I think she might have, wouldn't she be in that list over there? I think
Maybe,
she
yeah. I suppose. Yeah, probably.
Wow, your own sister
Wait,
left.
there are viewers. There are 3
never mind.
viewers.
Never mind, she is still here.
Yay! 3 viewers and 3. Oh, there we go.
Oh, no. Okay.
So now John's got to keep himself in check, now that he knows.
Yeah. Ryan has warned me about scaring his family.
I have. And I also made a note that no inappropriate interactions for your NPC. At least not too inappropriate.
Ryan, it's a town full of prostitutes and bums and crooked politicians. I mean, it's kind of...
Oh my word. Yeah, what else we got here? So, oh, come on, don't tell her. I don't talk about dead babies all the time. Like, maybe there was a phase in college where I made some jokes. Moving on. Yeah. So we did want to talk a little bit about the Kickstarter process. I don't know if people are probably more interested in CityQuest itself, especially if you're here for the live podcast here. But I do kind of want to address the Kickstarter process and just kind of go through what it all entails. Because it was a pretty long process. And hey, some of you might be considering doing your own Kickstarter, so maybe it's super valuable information. We started talking about Kickstarter quite a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember when we proposed the idea of potentially doing a Kickstarter eventually.
I think maybe in February, about there, maybe. I don't know, because I wanted to do one quite a while ago.
Yeah, I've been at least talking about possibly doing one since pretty near the beginning even.
Yeah.
I think once we had our initial, we had the airport set up and we were starting to show people in the area, we were starting to show them the game, and just where it was at that point. Oh, Cliff's here too. Oh man. Sports stadium. Oh, it's no. Oh no. What about sports stadiums? I'm confused.
Well, maybe he means we could like.
Oh, in the game? Yeah, well, wait.
Yes. Let's add advertising on it as well.
Yeah, that does make sense.
I'm sure that CenturyLink or something would pay us.
Yeah, they would probably sponsor us, right?
Quest Fields or whatever.
Although we don't want to lock it down to Seattle. I mean, really, at this point, it is a lot more
New Yorkish.
Shh! Don't say it.
Oh shit!
It is more East Coastern. East Coastern. That's not really a word, is it?
Not really. No.
Okay.
Well,
Anyway.
whatever. I'm sure you.
Okay, I gotta stop paying attention to the chat here. It's distracting me. I'll check back once. I'm so sorry. I keep knocking my mic. Yeah, I'll check the chat once in a while here, but constant interaction is distracting me. So the Kickstarter process we talked about after we were showing around the initial prototype, and people seemed to respond positively. So we kicked around the idea, especially because Kickstarter was getting more and more popular then. Not too long before, there had been a fair amount of successful, big successful Kickstarters, I think.
Yeah.
The Double Fine Adventure was earlier that year.
Well, that was previous year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Man, that was way
in,
older than I thought.
I think late 2011 or November 2011.
I'm totally out of this one. I didn't back it. I didn't really know what Kickstarter was at the time.
2012. November 2012. But weren't we working? Oh, we were working on CityQuest at the time. I don't fucking know when it was. I have no idea when Double Fine did there.
So, at some point, there had been a big influx of some pretty successful campaigns. So I think it attracted us like it attracted a lot of people. I mean, the idea of not necessarily free money, but going specifically to your audience and finding people that would play the game to help support the development. It's an interesting idea. It's proving an interesting experience, most definitely. The Kickstarter process itself kind of got underway, probably around February or March, of just kind of thinking up, like, that's when some of the brainstorming started, what we wanted to do for our tiers and things like that. And the actual serious work started, so we launched the 2nd of this month, I think. So we were doing serious work on it for at least a month ahead of time. Most of the work was focused on the Kickstarter and getting the Kickstarter going.
And polishing off the last little bit of the slums as well.
Yeah. Oh.
The flying unicorn, I guess that was mostly just, I mean, I didn't even really expect that to be.
John did the scene, and it was, it had the bright rainbow and it had the city, and he put in a random unicorn, and I was sitting down working on the video, and I laughed my butt off when I saw it. So I figured I had to put it in. I mean, it was too awesome not to.
Maybe you can ride it.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe there will be an actual point in the game where it comes into play. But that was just kind of a silly thing for the video that, who knows, will at least probably be an Easter egg or something.
Yeah, initially I think I was just a little bit loopy that day when I was doing that scene, so that's where it came from. But
yeah. Yeah, and that was pretty far in, because that was pretty far into the Kickstarter process when I was sitting down working on the video. I needed that scene. So all the stuff we had to do to get ready for the Kickstarter. Well, first and foremost, we had to finish off the demo as it is, and polish it out and get as many bugs as we could out of it and fill out as much of the content as we could.
Yeah. Well, and some of it ends a little bit prematurely, too. I mean, like, this isn't... I believe we still have parts of the slums.
Yeah, there's quite a bit left of the slums after this point.
Yeah.
But we did kind of have a self-imposed deadline for launching the Kickstarter, so we kind of made the decision to end it partway through, because there's a fair amount of new tech that's going to have to go in to finish the rest of the slums. If you haven't played through it yet, basically the demo ends with you going to sleep. Well, when you wake back up, there's a lot more to each of these storylines, but the waking up part, we're not quite sure how to handle it, because, you wake up and theoretically it's going to be morning, right? It's not going to be night anymore. It would feel a little weird if it was still night when you woke back up. So we need to kind of figure out how we want to go about having night and day scenes, at least for the slums.
Yeah. I think, well, the way we discussed it before was possibly having it where when you wake up it's morning and it gradually, the sun sets gradually over the period of several minutes or whatever the case may be, and then it just stays like near sunset or dark until you go to sleep.
Yeah. And the main reason for that is because you have all these different storylines which do call for you to go to sleep again. Each of these 4 storylines kind of reach their apex when you go to sleep. You're trying to find a place to rest. And the decision was either to rewrite a good chunk of the quests if you had already gone to sleep, or keep the quests the same but have the nighttime sort of gradual shift. So that would have taken a fair amount of time to implement. So that's kind of why we decided to leave the break here. But hey, once you get the game, that just means there's going to be even more for you to play.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time polishing up the demo, and we spent a lot of time working on the video. The interesting thing about the video is there were a fair amount of assets that were not planned to be needed in the game itself. Now that we have them, there's a good chance they will find their way into the game. But the opening bus explosion shot, right, that was very specifically made for the trailer. And there are a fair amount of there's a lot of other setups. Since it's not strictly a gameplay video, it's kind of, yeah.
Well, we could make like City Quest speed, and you have to keep the bus going at 55 miles an hour to explode.
Seems like a pretty good minigame to me.
Time to reuse that animation.
You're right. No, so it's more than likely a lot of the stuff is going to make its way into the game, but there were also a lot of things we had to set up that weren't strictly going to be in the game. They didn't really follow the format of the game, like the very large pan shot of the slums. You know, we start at the right and we slowly pan all the way to the left, and you see the character multiple times. That was all set up very specifically to kind of explore a lot of the funny stuff that is in the game, but condense it. That was kind of the difficulty of the trailers. This game is a little slower paced, and there's a lot of reading, and there's a lot of fun with exploring and interacting with the environment. And there's a lot of funny animations, but it's pretty long form. It's not very condensed, so we kind of wanted to bring a lot of that humor and put it up front and expose it as best we could. So that's what a lot of the extra setup was just trying to distill the humor out of the game into this short 1.5-minute trailer.
Yeah, and hopefully if people like it, then they can stick around and read Ryan's update with the story.
Yes, there's an extremely questionable story.
Did your sister read that?
What's that?
I said, did your sister read that?
Probably. I don't know. Let's
right.
wait. Let's wait for the time delay and see. Oh, what platforms are we targeting? Can you die by peeing on an electric fence? Maybe.
If we have an electric fence, we should definitely do that. We should put one in.
Oh, hey, Zabin. Hey, I know who you are. I know who you are. Would I rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? Classic question.
I think I'd definitely go with the horse-sized duck.
The horse-sized duck?
Yeah. Seems like ducks are kind of squishy and fluffy.
Yeah, it seems like
horses are painful.
Yeah, because I mean, ducks are still pretty big, right? I think, and I will get back to address the platforms question in a little bit, but yeah, ducks are still pretty big. I feel like a horse could still do a fair amount of damage, even if it was duck-sized. And 100 of them, even more so. Like that's
trip
just
on one at
crazy.
least, and then they just trample you to death.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would definitely hedge my bets against fighting a horse-sized duck. So, thanks for that. Peeing on an electric fence. It seems likely, but at the moment,
we have the pee animation.
We do have the pee animation, so there's going to be lots of peeing. We may find now the interesting thing about that is since it is the big city, I'm not sure we're
prison.
Prison, yeah, maybe there's probably electric
inner city
prison.
I'm assuming, you know.
So if we ever find a place where there will be electric fences, I imagine yes, you'll be able to pee on an electric fence and die.
Okay.
Yeah, so probably. As for platforms, we did kind of go over this in the Kickstarter a little bit, but to be more upfront, we are targeting right now Windows, Mac, and PC primarily. Windows, Mac, and Linux primarily. And we have stretch goals for targeting the Ouya and the Android and the iPhone.
Yeah.
We think there's a possibility we might be able to find discounts for some of the upgrades we need to put it on these various platforms. So there's a chance we will still release on those platforms.
And it does work really well on touch devices.
Yeah,
it looks great.
Yeah, we definitely designed around the idea of putting it out on touch. But I don't know, that we kind of made the executive decision to target PC, Mac, Linux first, and then make iOS, Android secondary. Especially because it doesn't. There's a good chunk of, yes, there are more hardcore gamers that can play games on the tablets, but not that this is a particularly hardcore game, I guess. But I think the game doesn't really target more of the casual player too well, which does make a large audience of the tablet devices. So
Yeah.
that's kind of our secondary target right now. Well, technically tertiary target. Our secondary target is Ouya, just because there's no extra licensing. Well,
No,
we would still need the Android license, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't we already? Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
Unity. Yeah, we
So,
did that.
Yeah, it's kind of all wrapped up in that. Is we're looking at Ouya, Android, iOS. If we don't meet the stretch goals, they may come a little bit later. They may come after we've released this initial, PC, Mac, and Linux. But they are planned for that at least.
Yeah.
And it is adaptable. We actually have controller support for it already, so it can adapt to things like the Moga or any other controller-based schemes. Actually, if you plug in, I don't know if it's in the web build right now, but if you plug in a 360 controller, you should be able to just play right with the 360 controller as it is right now. So it doesn't feel as good as mouse and keyboard or even touch.
Does it work on Mac and PC in that case, since it's through the Unity plugin?
It should work on Mac right now as well.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, so 360 controller with Mac, but it does require a very specific driver.
Okay.
Yeah, which I'll post it again on the website or something like that if you want to try it. Like I said, it should be in the build. Don't quote me on that for sure, but I think it's in the current build that's up there right now. Okay. What else were we talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, the Kickstarter process. A little more on that. You may notice me doing this all the time. The mustache kind of gets in my mouth, so that's a weird habit of mine. Just to address it for anyone that's watching live. If you're not watching live and you're just listening to the audio broadcast, well, just pretend. Just pretend you know what's going on.
He's stroking his beard.
I am. It's sensuous, luxurious, beautiful. What else?
If they're blind or weren't watching, then they'll know. So
What's that?
I said if they're blind or weren't watching, then they'll know.
Yes. So what else in the rest of the Kickstarter process? After we got the video cut together and made, and we were pretty happy with it, we shipped it off to Akash, and he made music to match with the actual trailer. So there are a lot of beats that go with the music, a lot of humorous beats. There's a pause right before the boss hits. And that was because he actually sat down with it and matched the mood and the actual pacing of the game while he was making the music. And that's a big reason we actually want music, is so we can match the mood as exactly as possible. We could go and find some Creative Commons music or things like that, but it's definitely not going to match the mood just the way we want. It would kind of be there, but not as intricate as we would like.
Yeah, especially when, since the graphics are so lo-fi, it'd be nice to have the music carry a little bit more of the weight as far as the mood and emotion that's happening. So
yeah. So once we had that, I think the whole time during we had been actually going about setting up the tiers. Oh, one more important thing that probably a fair amount of people would think, if you're thinking of doing a Kickstarter, you probably should have done this, but we had to do a lot of legwork figuring out what our overheads were going to be and setting prices that were appropriate. The digital tiers, if you give $5, you give $10, all that is going directly to the benefit of the game. But at the higher tiers, when you have t-shirts and posters and box copies and all that stuff, a significant chunk actually does go to the development of the actual making of those products. So we had to figure out what we thought was an acceptable return. If we raised the entire amount, if we reached our $8,000 goal, but it was entirely on posters, then out of that we would not get back enough money to actually do the things we want to do with the Kickstarter. So we had to do a lot of statistical analysis, sitting down and figuring out what our overhead was, what it was going to cost to ship, what it was going to cost to produce, and figure out how much for each tier was going to come back to us, figure out how much Kickstarter was going to take off the top, how much Amazon payments was going to take off the top, how much taxes would take off the top, because this is, it is going to be taxed as income, so we have to account for that. So there was a lot of work that actually went into making sure our bases were covered and making sure we weren't making promises that we couldn't fulfill. And I think any good, successful Kickstarter should know how to do that and should cover those bases ahead of time. And most probably do, but there's definitely a few that went, okay, we want to raise this goal, and then found themselves spending 50 or 70% on just fulfilling their actual rewards, and that's a problem. So especially if you're considering doing one yourself, you need to do that legwork. It's very, very important. So we did that legwork. Once we had that done, it was a matter of going on Kickstarter and actually setting up the Kickstarter and doing all of the actual writing for it and doing all the art for the page and setting up the various tiers and all that, which was not the easiest in the world. Kickstarter's platform leaves a little bit to be desired. There are a lot of things that kind of cause trouble, like the tiers. The reason there's a lot of weird formatting choices, like a line of equal signs to cause a break, is because they don't really give you any way to do line breaks or any bolding or italics or anything like that in the actual tier. So you have to get really creative when you're doing it, which is why you see a lot of the Kickstarter projects don't have nice formatting. It's just one big block of text. Check the chat. Ooh, hey. Okay. Oh no, I missed much.
Oh.
Okay. Oh yes, how many coins? Oh God, that's terrible. That's an awful. I would accept 3,000 coins, and I'll take the hat off. And then the next is, yeah. I mean, I have no idea what you're talking about. That is inappropriate, sir. It's terrible. And no, I won't put a shoe on my head.
How many coins make real money?
I don't know. I don't know the economy of seedy internet chat rooms like that.
Okay. Wait, we said specifically in our video that we haven't turned to prostitution yet.
Yes, we have not turned. I mean, that's not really prostitution.
Would make a liar out of us. Stripping for money? Yeah. Oh, I guess that's different.
I mean, I suppose like if you raise your bid by like $5 on Kickstarter, I'll take off the hat. It's gonna be. Look what I've become.
We should call this game "What Will John and Ryan Do for $5?" Maybe terrible things. That's the answer.
Check back next week for John and Ryan's Desperation Show. Okay, well that was fun. Yeah.
What else is there?
Well, yeah, there wasn't too much left. It was a matter of just putting together the Kickstarter and then kind of drumming up as much pre-build as we can. We did a lot of networking around town, and there's a lot of really, really supportive folks around the area, and a lot of really, really supportive folks online, and friends and family and things like that that have really helped give us a very, very strong start. So I think that kind of, in a way of its own, was kind of building for it. I don't want to say, not guerrilla marketing, but like the just kind of socializing and getting the game out there and getting eyes on it as early as possible was immensely helpful. There are a lot of people that we've shown it to that were really supportive. There's a lot of people that are, interested in the game but really want to support our development, and everything is appreciated. But there was a significant amount of showing it around before we actually launched that helped us get a really, really strong start. So if you're thinking of doing a Kickstarter, make sure you're putting in that groundwork. By the point you have an interesting idea, start showing it to people. Yeah. And we'll see how the rest of the Kickstarter goes before we do a final, post-mortem or anything like that. We're only half done, so we don't know how it's all going to turn out. We're still very, very hopeful, but we still need lots of eyes on it. So if you think of someone that would be interested, tell them. I know you probably hear that a lot from me. But what else do we got? Oh, still no coins. Green light. Oh yeah, we are on green light. Oh, walked away and missed the answer. The answer was that is inappropriate, sir. I am not going to.
But $5.
$5. A $5 Kickstarter bid, and I will take the hat off. I can wait. I suppose I would have to open my email.
Oh,
yeah,
for Kickstarter. Probably.
Tying
them.
Yeah, we definitely had to. So we had to go about setting up the green light first of all, which was very, very little effort compared to Kickstarter. Again, green light, their back end could use a little bit of help. Like it was all everything was based on tags instead of like a WYSIWYG editor. So that was a little bit of a hassle to set up, but not nearly as bad as trying to set up the Kickstarter. And it also was a lot more, simple. You don't want this huge pitch on Greenlight. You want a solid video up there. You want some pictures and a little bit of description about the game. But most of the Greenlight users aren't really going to read too much of your description. Maybe if they're on the fence, they'll read what it's about, or if they're a little confused about the trailer but interested, they may check it out. But for the most part, there's not a lot of reading there. And then, kind of trying to build cross-promotion there was an interesting process. If you haven't, go vote for us on Greenlight, you 4 people. 4 or 6 or 7.
Every vote counts.
Every vote counts.
Yes.
5. Ooh, 5. I will have you know that this is the most amount of people watching us podcast at any given time.
Ever.
I guess that's because we've never been watched podcasting before.
Yeah.
Actually, we have. Eric has probably watched us podcast when we were back home. So okay, so
there
yes, still
giggles in the background sometimes.
Yes, there have. Some of our earlier, more absurd podcasts, there was laughing in the background and stuff like that. But let me remind you that we are open to calls if anyone wants to chat. I don't know how we'll handle it, and I apologize if we berate you, but just in case you wish to, it's there.
Can I call?
If you want.
I'm just gonna walk away, pretend I'm going to the bathroom, and then call in as somebody else.
Good plan. Why isn't Erica calling us? Man.
Oh, that's true.
No, John is definitely not going to do any of that. I'm still waiting. I don't see any increases here, so the hat's staying on. Just gonna say. Oh yeah. So I have a little bit. I wanted to talk about the CityQuest design process. This is longer than our podcasts usually go.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. This interaction thing is neat. We'll have to do this again next time we podcast. So we'll see in a year. Because every time we say we're going to do it more often, and we never do. But we will try. We will try. We will see how that goes. I don't know, the CityQuest design process, you want to talk about that a little bit? Kind of what goes into...
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, it's kind of pretty informal. Like, when we designed the area, we just talked about what we wanted in there. I mean, a lot of the time, for the slums, there were just a bunch of placeholder buildings, and some of them got filled out. Some of them we wanted going into it.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly...
Well, I mean, from the top, I guess we have talked about, like, okay, what's our story going to be, especially for a section. We've had our little design meetings about what the overall gameplay is going to be like, what the overall story is, and I think at this point we have a lot of vague ideas about how the storylines are actually going to turn out. Sorry about that. So we had these ideas about how the storylines are going to turn out, but there's not like a step by step by step by step thing yet for the entire game. We figured out kind of where we wanted them to go, and then from there broke down the sections that were important to us. The airport actually was kind of this stick around from the last time we were talking about City Quest, and I think we just like the idea of introducing you to the city, making it clear that this is your first time to the city. This is it. You're here for the first time, and you have to figure it out from the airport. So the airport kind of stuck around, and that evolved a little bit, but that was really just figure out how to make it at least a little bit interesting to get the character from the gate to the cab, and also introduce the actual gameplay elements. After that, we talked about the slums and how, what was going to become of the slums, how the slums were going to move on to everything else.
I don't remember how or when we decided to have the slums be the next area that you go to.
Yeah.
Some of this is kind of like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
My memory is pretty terrible too, so.
Well, I think there was at least the idea of having some sort of intermediate area where you could be introduced to the storylines, and the slums seemed like an interesting idea. It seemed like a place you would find seedy politicians, mobsters, hookers, and hobos. So I think it worked out pretty well to introduce all the seedy characters in a nice seedy environment. It's not to say that the big city isn't going to be a little bit seedy as well, but there's a lot more facets. This is more of the ghetto, the rundown, the crime area. So it's a lot more feasible that you would run into these crazy characters right off the bat. Plus, I think it just seemed kind of funny. It seems like a funny area to do.
I do like the idea of stranding somebody in a ghetto that they're not familiar with.
First time to the city? First time seeing a car, possibly? Well, here, we're going to plop you down right in the middle of a place where you're probably going to get stabbed. So good luck. Have fun. Once we actually kind of talk about the story, figure out the story a little bit, then we need to figure out what areas are needed. Where is the mobster going to hang out? Okay, he'll be at a bar. We're going to put him at a bar. Okay, well, the prostitute storyline, well, she's probably going to need a seedy motel, right? Okay, how about she just hangs outside there? Just slowly but surely, as we figure out the detailed story of the level, then figuring out all the specific places that need to be in the level. Yeah. So after that, I guess kind of concurrent with that came the art. John started laying out the city. A lot of filler buildings that maybe we didn't exactly know how you were going to, get along the mafia storyline. Okay, well, how about you have them rough up the flower shop? So take out one of the stand-in buildings and put in the flower shop. So, pretty informal process most of the way. I mean, I think the first iteration of the actual level design was just thrown up on a whiteboard here at home, and that probably wasn't even the final iteration either. So
I think that's the way it was for the airport as well.
Yeah, the airport.
That was a long time ago. Damn long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think we initially just whiteboarded it.
Yeah. Yeah, at least I don't know what we did the first time we did the City Quest, like in 2010. We never really got past like 3 or 4 areas anyway there. So I think that one we had gate room, TSA hallway, Whack Donald's.
Whack Diggles.
Whack Diggles.
I think it might be Whack Diggles. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Whack Diggles.
Okay.
Welcome to Whack Diggles. I love you.
Wait, does he have an option to say "I love you" too?
No, if you would have read the backstory, he has no more love in his heart after he lost his you. Spoilers. I'm sorry. If you haven't read the story yet, I'm sorry, but there is heartbreak.
Well, I mean, that fast food worker could have gotten him on the rebound. But anyways,
yeah. So we whiteboarded that one too. And just kind of marked off what was done, what was not done. And then finally is a matter of just filling the thing out. We have the art, now we have to do stuff like split it into layers so you can move behind something or move in front of something.
Doing lots of animations of the environment.
Yep, lots of animations to just make it feel lively, feel full. Then since we have this, we have the kind of mantra of make everything you can interactable. There's a lot of writing, even if it's just a silly, mundane, you lick the window. We have to write the dialogue for that and then set up an action handler for it so you can actually interact with it. Do that for everything. On top of that, actually, making the story, making the interactions, figuring out how you're going to talk to one person. And all in all, it's relatively streamlined at this point, but some of the steps are definitely tedious. Our dialogue system is powerful enough to do what we need, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to use. I've seen a lot of very impressive dialogue systems, and ours is not bad, but it can definitely be tedious and very time-consuming to set up. But it works, and I'm happy. Yeah, there's not much more to it than that. Just going through, setting everything up. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much all we have on our agenda for this afternoon. Unless we get a call in the next 10 seconds or so, we will. It was good chatting. I'm glad you all showed up for the podcast, and anyone that's listening to the podcast afterwards, well, thanks for listening, and why weren't you here live?
But thank you, really, for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening anyway, really. I don't want to berate you. I can't. If you consider yourself our fan, we love you. We love you. We want to make you happy.
All right.
But
only if you give us money, really.
Well, no. Well,
my love is free, right?
Pay John for his love. Lurv.
Okay.
Anyway, it's starting to get into silly territory, so thank you all for joining us, and we will catch you next time on the Stone Monkey Studios podcast. As always, you can find us on our website, which is stonemonkeystudios.com, or you can find us on Kickstarter. Support that. Tell your friends. Kickstarter.cityquestgame.com. And Twitter. We're Stone Monkey Men. We're all over the internet.
Yeah.
And we got a huge presence on the internet. So find us at any one of those locations, and you can also find the podcast a little while afterwards. We'll probably add a music bed or something like that afterwards. You'll be able to find us on iTunes or on our website. So thank you very much for listening. I'm Ryan.
I'm John.
Have a good week.